Thank you, Chief Commissioner Kilpatrick, for those lovely words that I can't live up to. And to Mr. Speaker and to the Northern Ireland Human Rights Commission for inviting me and for all their amazing work. Nice to see they're using Stormont for something again, eh? Of course, none of us can remember what it used to be used for. That seems to be lost to the historical record at this point. I've heard they're going to turn this room into a karate dojo next year, though, so it's not all bad news. If you're thinking to yourselves, what is the lanky fella from that band doing talking at a serious event like this? Don't worry. The lanky fella from that band is thinking exactly the same thing. But when you are invited to talk at an event hosted by an organisation called the Northern Ireland Human Rights Commission, and you say no, do you automatically go to hell? I didn't want to risk it. So at an event of experts, there's also me. I'm certainly not an expert in human rights. I'm barely an expert in being human. A fact most of my song lyrics I've written will quite categorically support, if something can indeed be quite categorical. So I'm not an expert in anything. I'm also wrong about a lot of stuff. I've been wrong today. I'll be wrong about stuff tomorrow. I find that admitting that there's a possibility one might be wrong at any given moment, it's a good perspective to approach the world from. But I do try and learn something every day, and I've already learned something from listening to Chief Commissioner Kilpatrick today, so thank you for that. As Noel Gallagher wisely wrote, and Liam Gallagher sublimely sung, don't put your lives in the hands of a rock and roll band. Truer words never spoken. So there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't listen to me. Now sit there and listen to me for 30 minutes. Yes, that's right. They've asked me to speak for 30 minutes. No one's happy about it. I will concentrate for the most part on a few things that I have at least some understanding and experience of. Aside from in my closing remarks, which we'll get to in time, I have no direct experience of that subject, but being born and bred in Northern Ireland should be enough to at least have an opinion on it. And he's leaving already. Jeez, it's a bad start. Mental health in Northern Ireland will be the crux of what I'm going to talk about, as I actually have had some experience of that. But first, human rights, though it is two short words, is a sprawling concept. And often it's the rights part that we concentrate on, justifiably so, as they are imperative. However, especially in these severely divided times, it might behoove us to take a minute to re-establish the first part of that phrase. Before we even try to answer the question, what are rights? Maybe we should think firstly about the question, what is human? Put simply, we is human. All of us in this room, everyone in this country, everyone, welcome back, sir. Everyone in, whisper it, Europe. Everyone in every country and continent, everyone on this planet we all share. The only thing that unites us all is the fact that we are all human. So wherever you're from and whatever you believe in, you are human first. So before we talk about human rights, we should all share the human rights that we should all share and have access to. It is important to remember our humanity. And therefore, when it comes to rights, no one should have more and no one should have less. No religion unites the world, no race, no gender, no sexuality, no political identity or ideology. Nothing unites the world except one thing, and that one thing is our humanity, our innate, elemental, indelible humanness is what we all have in common. So any rights you believe you are entitled to logically extend to everyone else on the planet. So when we talk of human rights, there is no us versus them. There is just us. Whoever you are, whatever your race, religion, background, however you identify, whoever you love, we should all feel safe and included in this new Northern Ireland. one that shines outwardly and proudly into the world rather than the remote place my generation and generations before grew up in. Us means everyone. Everyone in Northern Ireland deserves to be treated with respect, kindness, and have access to the things that sustain us and strengthen us, not just our communities, but create connecting fibres between communities previously distinct or even at odds with one another. Humanity is currently experiencing an atonal symphony of dovetailing catastrophes. So making sure people have access to basic human rights is more important now than it has ever been. As this is the Northern Ireland Human Rights Commission, I'll be concentrating on what's happening in Northern Ireland more than what's happening in the wider world, but it is important to remember that we are part of a global community and that we should feel connected to the world now. I grew up in a Northern Ireland that didn't feel connected to the world at all. We were isolated and insular, but through our art, culture, world champion athletes, many expats making their lives in the US, Canada, Australia, and all over the world, we are now a big part of the world at large, and we should celebrate that. And it should also make us cognizant of the fact that the citizens of the world we interact with, though they may be from different cultures and religions and backgrounds, are our brothers and sisters and kin and fellow travellers on this timeline. We're all on this roller coaster together. And while the deepest part of my soul goes to what is happening to the people of Ukraine, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia and Eritrea, Myanmar, Israel and Palestine, Kashmir, many, many other places in the world, and of course the biggest and least discussed humanitarian crisis on the planet right now in Yemen, where 75% of the people of Yemen are reliant on humanitarian aid. I will be talking about Northern Ireland for the most part. Here at home, I think the thing that is on most people's minds right now is the cost of living crisis, and more knowledgeable people will talk on that subject than me. I will, though, say this. Much more needs to be done to protect and secure the safety of vulnerable people in Northern Ireland this winter and beyond. We have been through much, and we are a legendarily stoic people, but attrition always wins eventually. There is a finite amount of hardship and chaos that any society can withstand, even one as resilient as ours. It is long past due to put the people of Northern Ireland first and over above any differences we may have in religion or politics. Heat, food and shelter are human rights, pure and simple. Even to a place such as this that seems to have woven understatement and forbearance into the fabric of daily life. We are a place and people that likes to downplay. We tend to understate. We are, after all, the only people in the English-speaking world to turn the word grand, meaning elegant, majestic, regal, grand designs, the grand old Duke of York, grand plans. We turned that word of magnificence into, How are you? Oh, I'm grand. I'll leave it like that, it'll be grand. That is not to say we turn magnificence into mediocrity. Far from it. We just don't like to blow our own trumpet. But, paraphrasing the words of Edmund Blackadder, it's also good to know that we have a trumpet. Northern Ireland punches above its weight on the world stage in sport, art, literature, music, and so much more. And we have been through a rolling conveyor belt of conflict, tragedies, heartbreaks, and yet always seem to make it through to the other side. I wrote a line for a new song that will be on the next Snow Patrol record. It goes like this. And Belfast continues. I never doubted it wouldn't. It's climbed off the canvas more than any other city could have. It was written to honour the incredible spirit of this place we inhabit, not just Belfast, but Northern Ireland at large, and the remarkable people of Northern Ireland that constantly amaze me by their durability, resilience, heart and humour. But for God's sake, to the politicians of this place, the people of Northern Ireland need help now getting through this winter and out the other side, and then not just enduring life, but creating the environment for, yes, a safer, more secure life, but also a more ebullient and fulfilling life for everyone. There is currently a mental health epidemic in Northern Ireland. I know a fair amount about mental health, mostly from experience. For almost all of my life, at various and sometimes overlapping times, I have been struck with long periods of self-loathing, anxiety, depression, and anger I stridently would not admit to and therefore could never solve, suicidal thoughts, and even on several occasions, what came a hair's breadth away from suicidal actions. Making music, listening to incredible music by countless artists, the love and support of my bandmates and brothers in Snow Patrol, dear friends, almost all connected through music, and the wider music community in Northern Ireland have saved my life more than once. To all those people that have helped me and so many others through the power of their art, I give thanks. We must protect the makers of art in Northern Ireland. They are the guardians of Northern Ireland's soul, a soul that lives and pulses in the music, the drama, the dance, the art, the written word of this wee place. A simple song, a single song, or a simple song, can save you. I know this because songs have saved me many times. Most recently, this was about 5 years ago, in one of my darkest times, I played the song Pink and White by the truly incomparable Frank Ocean on repeat, maybe 100 times. And it brought me back from the brink, brought a sliver of light back into the world for me, just enough light to keep me here on this plane of existence. Each time I played it, I felt a little less like ending my life until that thudding thought in my head eventually started to evaporate and then flip, and I gradually oriented away from ending and instead towards beginning life again. I say all this in no way to garner sympathy, nor to play the world's smallest violin, just to say that I know that place. I'm so familiar with that place. I have fallen into that dark void where there is no light, no joy, and time just falls apart in your hands like wet paper. I say it because I know that so many people know that place too, that dark, impenetrable void, that place where we feel not good enough, or ashamed, or angry, or depressed, or where life itself seems to evaporate. But even though I know that place, I can't know what anyone else is going through. Not entirely. Just like you can't know what I'm going through. Other than right now, I can't seem to shut up about it. As I've already said, we are all human, but the great paradox of the human experience is that, yes, we share our humanity, but we are all entirely separated from one another by our perception. I can't see the world through anyone else's eyes, just as no one can see the world through mine or anyone else's eyes. Our empathy can take us only so far, but it can't take us into someone else's perception. And unless there is some being John Malkovich style machine I don't know about, we will have to make do without knowing. That is why communicating with one another is the best defense against falling into that void, telling each other our stories. It wasn't until I finally started talking about what was going on in my head that things started to shift for me. I know how hard it is to say the first word, to make the first step. But when we do, things start to change. I found a way out of my anger, my self-loathing, my shame, with various things. Acupuncture, therapy, meditation, qigong, sea swimming, yoga, playing football with people in their 20s and 30s and getting skinned every 30 seconds. Although, upon reflection, I'm not sure that last one is a net positive for my mental health. However, sport can be a wonderful way to release our anger and our demons healthily. Just one person thinks that, but I appreciate it. Some of the remedies I just listed cost money, and so many people haven't got the money, or indeed barely the time to do any of those things, I understand. I am very well aware of how lucky I am. We have to, in Northern Ireland, make it a priority that therapy and counselling are free and available to all that need it. At the moment, those free counselling phone lines and services are buckling under the weight of demand. They need the money and resources to bolster and support their undeniably noble and vital services, and the people of Northern Ireland need it now more than ever. Trust me though, bless you, twice. Trust me though, even if you did just one thing, getting in the sea for 10 minutes or a lake or even a cold bath, I swear it works wonders and it's free. As we become ever more ideologically siloed and the tectonic plates that divide us shift yet further apart with every new political earthquake, we must remember to, whenever possible, leave our judgments of others and their lives, different though they may be to ours, behind us. We cannot see the world through their eyes, through their perception. We are no better or worse than the next person that we meet. We have within us all the ability to be good and bad, great and terrible, frail and majestic, cowardly and heroic. We are not just one thing. We are not just our depression. We are not just our anxiety. We are not just our anger. We are not just our frailty. We are not just one thing. We are made of myriad complexities and contradictions. Anti-communist Russian dissident and Nobel Prize-winning author Alexander Solzhenitsyn once said, "The line separating good and evil passes not through states, nor between classes, nor between political parties, but right through every human heart." So in those moments when that one thing is all we can see, and it has taken a shape that looks very much like anger or hate or self-loathing or depression or anxiety or numbness or just the rigid, death-like, ossifying grip of world input overload, also within us, even though it might seem unimaginable from that isolated singularity, is the nascent possibility of redemption, of joy, of love, of compassion for others and ourselves, of freedom from doubt, anxiety, and depression. But God, I know it seems impossible when you're down there. And some people will say I'm oversimplifying this, and they might be right. As I say, I can't see the world through anyone else's eyes but my own, and can't know what they're going through. My only hope for everyone that falls into that void is that they find their way back to joy somehow. Perhaps one of the things I mentioned might help, but I can only know what has helped me. I can't know what will help you. As is well established, I am not an expert. One of the few things I do know, though, is that there are extraordinary people that can help us find ourselves and our joy once again. And we need those extraordinary people, healers, therapists, counsellors in Northern Ireland, available to all the people here. The troubles, though they may be over, still fester in our blood, our bones, our DNA. There have been many studies done on the effects of long-term war in countries and regions, even after that war has come to an end. Years, decades later, not just the people that went through the conflict are affected by it, but even the children of those people. Trauma, it now seems to be confirmed, can be passed from generation to generation. Trauma of the nature that happened here can therefore be genetic. Until we interrupt it, until we deal with it, until we talk about it, until we talk to each other. And as the still unfolding repercussions of Brexit, the pandemic, and the cost of living crisis continues to puncture and permeate the fabric of our lives, we need those life-saving services in Northern Ireland more than ever. The mental health statistics here that we've all seen at this point make for extremely upsetting reading. There is, though, a 10-year plan for mental health in Northern Ireland devised by Siobhan O'Neill and Professor Siobhan O'Neill, and Professor Deirdre Heenan, sitting on the desks in this very building waiting on review by, and hopefully the signatures of, the executive. Our government in self-exile. And that brings me to my closing remarks. I know there are some politicians in the room today and some politicians that aren't. I'm not picking on those in the room, nor am I letting the ones that aren't here off the hook. I'm not picking on any political parties or individuals. I am addressing all of the elected politicians of Northern Ireland, regardless of party or allegiance. I suppose that's to give you some kind of warning about what's about to happen. American author Don DeLillo said, "People in power make their arrangements in secret." And that has always been the case. And the people of any country in the world have had to endure that since the ancient Greeks invented politics and democracy in the first place. But I think that people of Northern Ireland have it twice as hard, because there is nothing more secretive than a government that doesn't meet at all. I realise when we talk about the government shutdown, people will say, when I talk about the government shutdown, people will say, but their side did this and their side did that. And those old arguments that still rage on, and there are those old arguments that still rage on seemingly eternally. And there are also those that now, and have always been ready to come back into this building and get to work. But I'm not going to single anyone out, because that singling out has been what's happening in Northern Irish politics for decades, and it's just untenable. Any politician in this room or not in this room might be thinking, yes, but, as in, yes, but their side did this, yes, but their side did that. Surely at this point, anybody with any rationality must see that that attitude isn't getting us anywhere. And the people of Northern Ireland deserve better, much, much better. Either you care about democracy or you don't. Either you care about your constituents and their human rights or you don't. Either you care about making Northern Ireland a better, safer, more inclusive, more robust place, or you don't. The word politician comes from the Greek polis, unless you're Glaswegian, and then it means the police. But in the ancient Greek, it means city or state. So to be a politician means to be a custodian of that state and all the people in it, not just the ones that agree with you, or indeed just the ones that voted for you. A lot of politicians in this country seem to be making decisions with a view only, or at least mainly, to cause the most harm to the other side. But it hurts everyone, your side included. Whatever victory you think you're having is a Pyrrhic one in which everyone suffers, your side or their side. If everyone loses, it kind of makes the notion that there is such a thing as their side or your side a bit redundant. The fact is that everyone in Northern Ireland is suffering, whether it's because of this current government shutdown or the previous government shutdown, whether it's Brexit and its fallout, the pandemic, the mental health epidemic, the underfunded hospitals and nurses and doctors, the heating crisis, the food poverty crisis, or myriad other crises. During all that mayhem is not the time to shut down. Some people will be looking for clues and trying to, no doubt, to make out that I'm coming down harder on one side than the other. But I'm not. Anyone that knows me knows I have no affiliation to any Northern Ireland political party. And unless we realise that we are all to blame for this situation, then we'll never fix this. Everyone at some point in recent years has refused to work with the other side on something, so no one is blameless in this. I have an idea. It's bold, but hear me out. What if the leaders and senior members of all the parties sit down in a room together? I have a feeling there's an empty room around here somewhere. And in that room, what if you're not allowed to talk about politics for an hour? Instead, what if you talked about your families, your friends, books you like, movies you've seen, places you've gone or would like to go on your holidays, music you like to listen to? After today, I'm guessing, not Snow Patrol. You'll realise that it's not the devil that sits across from you. you'll realize that you are all human, that Protestants and Catholics are in fact humans first. And then you can get to work trying to make life better for the people of Northern Ireland. I say these things not because I dislike any of yous, but only because I care about the people of Northern Ireland, and I know you do too. I think what gets lost sometimes is what should come first in our priorities. Political party or the people of Northern Ireland. Religion or the people of Northern Ireland. Nationality or the people of Northern Ireland. The answer to all those questions is the people of Northern Ireland. I'm not for a second saying you shouldn't feel proud of your religion or whether you feel British or Irish or Northern Irish like I do, or none of the above. If those things are a source of pride to you, then how the hell would I argue with that, and why would I want to? I am in fact delighted by anything anyone feels lifted or strengthened by. But don't let whatever lies at the core of your beliefs be the thing that arrests your empathy for someone else. If you are proud of being Irish and the person across from you is proud of being British, you actually share something, pride in your nationality. So that's something you have in common. People will accuse me of both sidesism, and some hate that more than they hate the other side. At least you know where you stand with the other side. I can't stand these fence sitters. You just can't trust them. The old joke goes, man meets other man in the street. First man says, are you a Protestant or Catholic? Second man says, I'm a Buddhist. First man looks the second man up and down suspiciously and says, aye, but are you a Protestant Buddhist or a Catholic Buddhist? We will drill down into you until we figure out if you're friend or foe. But why? We live in a modern Northern Ireland where the general public are doing their best to foster peace, understanding, togetherness, trying to find some modicum of joy where possible, and trying to live in the present day. I've been a member of the Northern Ireland music scene for nearly 30 years, and in that time I've never been asked where I'm from and what religion I am. The people making music in Northern Ireland today couldn't care less where you're from. They want to know what's in your heart and soul. The majority of people in Northern Ireland want above all else peace and safety for their families and want to share Northern Ireland with everyone from every walk of life. Why is it then so hard to get our politicians even to share this building? I'm just a singer in a band. What the hell do I know? I certainly don't know how to fix the problems in Northern Ireland or indeed the world, but I do know that without a modicum of kindness and compromise, nothing ever changes. John Lennon once said, give peace a chance. And we did. Miraculously, we did. As a kid growing up here, I didn't think it would happen in my lifetime. None of us did. We were, in those early days of peace and reconciliation, not perfect for sure, but an example nonetheless to the rest of the world, and especially those places where conflict had become indelibly inked into the fabric of life. We were a wee beacon of hope that maybe, just maybe, whatever enduring conflict felt inexorable might one day come to an end. Janine Winterson, in her extraordinary novel Wait, said, "The hells we invent are the hells we have known." And for 30 years or more, we invented hell every day. We knew that hell, and yet we invented it again every day. Until one day we didn't. Like some kind of magic trick I still don't fully comprehend, but I am so grateful for, and grateful too to all the men and women who figured out how not to invent hell. We didn't invent heaven, but we didn't invent hell, and we simply cannot afford to invent it again. As Japanese Nobel Prize-winning author Haruki Murakami said, "There is no war that will end all wars, and there is nothing for us down that road. We cannot choose it, and we cannot invent it again." Yes, it's an oxymoron, but we fought hard for peace. Most of us realize that we have to keep fighting hard for peace, keep choosing peace every day. It's something we have to keep choosing for the present day and for the future. American revolutionary Patrick Henry said in 1775, "Give me liberty or give me death." Can we just have half of that, please? Can we just have liberty? Can we just have peace? Can we just have safety, integrity, security, healthcare, mental health care, education, electricity, equality, heat? Things that surely cannot be argued are inalienable human rights. Can we just make sure we have those things first? Then maybe, in your spare time, after the doors of Stormont close at the end of a long day of difficult but ultimately satisfying work, making life better for the people of Northern Ireland, you can all get together after work and argue. Thank you.